Hey everybody, so a few months ago I read Jody Wilson-Raybould's book called True Reconciliation, and I really enjoyed it, and so I thought I would finally get around to this, her precursor to that book, which is this right here, and I want to talk about it. All right, everybody, so today we're talking about Jody Wilson-Raybould's Indian in the Cabinet, subtitled Speaking Truth to Power. It's mostly, I would say certainly half of it, is about that scandal involving Justin Trudeau with the SNC Lavalin affair. I've been a fan of her for a while. I don't know, I think I had some sort of prejudice against her at first. I don't know why. It's certainly not because I like Justin Trudeau in any way. I don't like that guy. I don't think he represents me as a progressive even. But I don't know. I guess that's just the power of the media. Maybe I had listened to something that skewed my perception of her in some way. I didn't hate her in any way. I just kind of got the wrong impression of her, I guess. That's the media will do that. But anyway, what an impressive person. And I think our values very much aligned. There's a lot in common that I have with just what I've read about her. So she spends a lot of time on that SNC Lavalin affair, which definitely gave me a much deeper perspective. I had followed that story, but she gave a lot more substance to the story that you just weren't hearing in the mainstream press. I would say she does spend about equal time about that affair, and then also just her time as MOJAG, that is Minister of Justice and Attorney General, that she was serving concurrently. What's involved with her job and what she accomplished. You know, there's even in the back here, there's an appendix on some of the things that she was a part of or that she single-handedly had passed. And man, is it ever impressive. Like, I would actually say start with the appendix first, just to get a good insight on the kind of person we're talking about here. She's very knowledgeable about the history of Indigenous folks and Canadian governance overall. There were certain things that I had taken for granted. I had no idea that she was the main person to credit for passing. There's also more interesting things, like there was even a bill in here which sunsets legislation that is no longer relevant, or is, you know, it's like an expiration date on certain laws that become redundant or not relevant anymore, anachronized, all that sort of thing. And I thought, man, that's a really great innovation. And she speaks mainly about what it's like to be a minister in government, and everything from the workroom politics, the patriarchy that she saw, the systemic racism, and, you know, a lot of the good-hearted people that were just doing their jobs trying to manifest better outcomes for their constituents and the country in general. I had also learned a word that I didn't know before. I'm very much a word of the day kind of guy, and I knew exactly what she meant the moment she used the word. It's called tokenism. I can definitely see how, in her case and in many other cases, how certain progressive governments, not all progressive governments, I mean, you can see it on the right as well, but I think how Western governments, especially on the left, will resort to tokenism to give them credibility to either Indigenous folks or other minorities. And it's like, well, let's just get a token woman in here. Let's get a token Indigenous person or a token Black person. This is the ugly side of affirmative action, by the way. I think affirmative action has been a good thing, and we should have a lever for that, certainly in public institutions. I do take it as almost axiomatic that a government that looks like the people it governs is likely going to act in the interest of those it governs. Not always, of course, but I think that that's a truism. There's the other side of that, where it's like, well, let's just get this Black person or this Indigenous person because it'll lend credibility to my cause, you know, and Justin Trudeau is especially guilty of that. He is very much a populist in that sense. So I valued that take, and certainly that word, which I'm going to use more and more. It's also somewhat of a memoir and touches in on her family life and, you know, how she grew up. She came from a very political family. You may be very familiar with her father. He was quite active at the federal level with Pierre Elliott Trudeau. She talks about her role within the Indigenous community and the various positions of power that she's held in that milieu. I just want to read the back flap because this lady's no joke. I mean, she has got so much experience. It says, the Honorable Jody Wilson-Raybould is the independent member of Parliament of Vancouver Granville. She served as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, the Minister of Veterans Affairs. This was after the fact, hey. This was basically Justin Trudeau's Bathsheba moment, if you will. He didn't like how she had a mind of her own and some integrity, so he was trying to move her off into this other committee, which she had no problem serving as Minister of Veteran Affairs. But it's like, was this really suited to her background? It was like, obviously he was just trying to shuffle her out, right? And the Associate Minister of National Defense until her resignation from cabinet in 2019. Wilson-Raybould is a lawyer, an advocate, and an Indigenous leader. She has been a British Columbia Crown prosecutor, a counselor for the Weewakai Nation, a chair of the First Nations Finance Authority, and was twice elected regional chief of the BC Assembly of First Nations. And then, of course, she's got some acknowledgements of her heritage there continuing on. But just in terms of her qualifications, her background, her education, she has a really interesting perspective, and I'd highly recommend that you guys read it. I gave it 4 full stars. I mean, it's hard to rate these things, right? I don't know why I don't give these things for 5 full stars. There's no problems that I really had with it. It's just that it's more like, am I really going to rate this up there with like The Trial by Franz Kafka? You know what I mean? That's why I don't always give it a 5-star rating. But really, really great. I would still recommend it highly. And if you've read this book, I would certainly like to hear it from you guys in the comments. Let me know what you thought of it, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Hey everyone, I hope you liked this video. If you want more like the one you just watched, click the suggested video on this screen. Make sure you subscribe, and to connect with me on my other platforms, my handles are linked below in the description, alright? Take care, peeps. Till next time.